Community Action Group on Homelessness, of which I'm the Community Development Coordinator, issued a press release today at about 11:15 in response to the meeting community for another cold shelter. As many of us know, community has rallied in very few short days, in fact in terms of 7 days, to be able to bring together a location, to find volunteers, to find materials needed to operate the shelter, and even miraculously, even in fewer than 4 business days, to find provincial funding for this to operate. One of the assurances we had as we move forward as a community in terms of developing an edible coal to respond to this growing emergency crisis around housing and homelessness in our community was an assurance from our municipal government by way of our mayor that they would be able to handle and be able to move forward with regulatory aspects of this plan. However, yesterday we received information that there are a lot of other barriers and a lot of loopholes that we're going to have to jump through. Subsequently, we do not have any of the regulatory support we need from our municipal government to proceed. As such, tonight, despite having our volunteers, despite having our funds, despite having our house put together through the gracious efforts of hundreds of people, it doesn't open. And any questions or comments?
So why exactly is it not opening? What do you specifically
well, specifically is that it's not pursuing in terms of zoning, of course, and we understood that moving into this, is that only it's an R4 zoning area, and that's a real risk. And so in terms of the information that was presented to myself, in the role that I would play in terms of coordinating, and also with the bishop, is that there would be an opportunity to help resolve that. However, we are not going to have that resolved inside of City Hall. Instead, we would have to pursue a process through Planning and Advisory Committee, which means issuing a request to community and just follow that path in terms of a temporary sort of variance that we used. We do not have a lot of hope, however, that that would be approved by the Planning Department in advance, which is really part of that process.
So when do you think it would be approved by?
The date that it would go in front of council would be the 12th. However, we really do not think it would be approved. Therefore, we need action. I'm going to hold comment on that for now. It's just really, there's just no confidence that even our bishop, or the graciousness of the Anglican diocese to be able to do this and to extend that house for this purpose was really done in terms of us all trying to move quickly, us trying to respond to a crisis and do the right thing. And we really did this on the faith that we would have the support of our city. But at this point, a lot of things in terms of having approval have big impacts, you know, when you look at insurance and other aspects of this too.
Would this be the same area as the rooming house on Charlotte Street last year? They wanted a rezoning?
I wanted to introduce some of the people in the room as well. Like, I don't know if I'm equipped to answer every question. It's been a really difficult week to start with. We've worked at an incredible pace to try to make this happen. It's been a really difficult 24 hours, and it's been a difficult 4 hours. And so some questions that are in scope, I'll do my best to answer, and other ones, like, I just would have to put my brain power to, and I'm sorry. But I also wanted to say with me today is Joan Kingston. Joan is the nurse supervisor for the Downtown Community Health Center, but fortunately she also acts as our chair for the Community Action Group on Homelessness, which has really worked as an organizing body to help bring this effort together. So I wanted to thank Joan in the room. We have other partners with us today who've helped in terms of really trying to bring together our funding. Organizers in the room who helped to bring together our volunteers. Organizers who helped to bring together staff and resources. So I'd even call upon them if there's questions that come forward to feel free. Because this is a community-led initiative, and I would really appreciate your support in responding to these questions. So again, other questions or comments?
Is the $82,000 from the province, was that meant to go to this shelter?
Yes. For this effort, yeah.
Specifically, not just the every homeless, the Grace House, it's just for
It's really looking at the short-term emergency responses. That's ongoing infrastructure that we need in the community. Yeah. So this is really to deal with our emergency response.
Could that funding be in jeopardy?
No. What's in jeopardy is the access to this house. It's set up. It's perfect. It's beautiful. It brings a lot of dignity to people who've often been socially excluded, and it's a really good starting point for us as a community to start building neighbors and building neighborhood. That's what's at jeopardy.
Do you feel like the city spoke to you in bad faith in terms of making this possible?
I think that there's an eagerness to solve problems. I think people really maybe overestimated maybe their capacity, underestimated, I think, the rigor and the structure of the planning department.
What's the next step?
That's a really good question. I would ask people, I think really the next steps now rest with our municipal government.
And so were most of the people from Tent City the ones that would be housed in this temporary?
Not necessarily. I think the way that we perceive homelessness, I think people are failing to understand that we have 35 at least different people in our city who sleep outside right now or in cars. People who are sitting or living together is a small representation of that population. The people who will be coming in is going to hopefully be a cross-section of people who may have not, it's a sheltered last resort and it's low barrier, so it would be interesting to see who will come through the doors. I just wanted to comment just when we were there this morning with the nursing student and the nurse supervisor. Just a woman came into the parking lot in her car and she said she just wanted to check out where she was staying tonight. And it was really hard because one of the nursing students, despite doing a walkthrough, we really had to let them know what's happening. So she just shared, look, I need you to speak with your worker. You won't be coming here tonight. And so this is an elderly woman who's been sleeping in her car. There is a lot of people in our community in a very similar situation. This is, I don't want to catastrophize things, you guys, but this is a moment in time where we have a chance to do the right thing. This is a crisis, and we have the capacity to do something.
Will there be some people there tonight at 8 o'clock to direct them to say, I'm sorry, it didn't fall through?
To be honest, I'm not sure yet. We would have to run that through staffing. Like, my job has really been to try to coordinate some of the resources and galvanize us.
I could buy you a coffee tonight. Me and you will go there and just stand there.
Okay.
Okay, I'll see you after. I'll be there.
I'll have a peppermint tea.
No problem. I'll buy.
You guys must have questions or comments. This is our chance. We have your media.
It was December 2 Mondays?
I believe. Good question, Mary.
You were in a little tighter.
We're not going to be pursuing. I just really want to make clear. In my role as a coordinator for Community Action Group on Homelessness, we've really worked hard to solve this issue once. Community came together once to solve this issue, and through our Herculean effort, we did what we were asked to do, and I think we really punched above our weight. I am not prepared in terms of the amount of resources and time and effort we have to solve this issue multiple times. I do believe going in front of Planning Advisory Committee at this point is a process piece that's not applicable to where we are. I think that we have to look at extraordinary measures to make this happen, and I'm very reluctant again that it be approved. As such, we're withdrawing our application to Planning Advisory Committee for the temporary variance use.
What's the mayor's views on this?
As everyone knows, like this is an issue that's close to his heart. He cares greatly about it. He's saddened. But I think you'd have to speak with him as well in terms of how to move forward. But his views, like we've been talking to him yesterday, all through the night, and today.
What do you think about the wraparound services, the $265,000
Wraparound services are critical. Like this, I think is really important to keep in mind, is this is a real stopgap measure. I think a lot of people we're applauding ourselves. We thought we could applaud ourselves today for making this effort to open a temporary shelter. Again, this is a short-term solution. This is a crisis that's been a long time in the making. We've recently seen, or continuously seen, decline in vacancy, rise in the cost of rent, but static supports when it comes to income supports for people who are vulnerable. One of the things we know is more and more people are living in trauma, are living really complex lives, and so wraparound services is something that's as important as roof. This problem doesn't solve itself just in terms of us looking at increasing our housing inventory, but we also have to make sure that we provide people with the supports they need to meet them exactly where they're at. If we want to turn this problem around, longer term solutions have to include wraparound services.
Why don't you think that the Planning Advisory Committee would move forward with this?
This is outside of the planning, I believe, and this is something we're calling for exceptional measures. And again, I think planning departments work within a certain code, and that's their job and that's their wheelhouse. What we have been asking for and what we had expected were exceptional measures.
Do you not think that the mayor has the authority or the council has the authority on some level for something as important and really emergency status to do something about this?
I do.
So why are we not holding his feet to the fire?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I just think that if it was promised, if it was something that was, everybody thinks it's the right thing to do, which it is, then why don't they just make the decision and say, okay, go ahead?
Then I would implore community.
Yeah.
I guess in terms of Dr. Rickard's, like who holds their feet to the fire,
Yeah.
is we've done our work. I've given you the information, and this is what's happened. Your job is clear.
That's a whole different-
Other comments, guys?
Do they go like the same as a rooming house on Charlotte Street? That's what I mentioned earlier.
Oh.
The rooming house, they had to go to rezoning to have more
Process, yeah.
rumors inside. So is this the same
It's
thing?
about density. It is. It's about density, yeah. And R4 zoning means you can only have 4 unrelated residents living in the same house. This house is an R4 house. We knew that going into it. We didn't go into this blindly, but we were given the assurance that this would be taken care of.
So do they go by paperwork, say, okay, you will meet in front of the committee in March, and then we'll listen to your concern in front of council in July? Do they know it's cold?
Gosh, no. They were more than willing to actually help us to be able to send out an emergency letter to community, informing them of a planning advisory committee session. And in that session, they would be able to discuss the property. And that's something to be able to get out. Planning advisory committee is something that you have to have 10 days notice for neighborhoods. So for them to have gotten it out yesterday, that was through great effort of the planning department. So I applaud them for helping with that. But I'm pretty sure we're not going to see a planning department based on the way that the zoning is stated. I don't see that our path forward for approval. I think exceptional measures need to be taken again. Yeah. But that could have happened in December, Charles, but it's not the path that I think is most pragmatic to take right now. I really think we need to use our time and resources wisely.
So I think I'm hearing what you're saying is we need the community and the public to rally with the mayor and our state councilors and push them, urge them to take emergency action and just let this happen and sort of bypass PAC and use their authority
Yes.
to make this happen.
If that's what community would like to see. I felt that we, in our role at Community Action Group on Homelessness, had a real mandate, a lot of pressure within community that something must be done. And that pressure isn't something that just came up last Wednesday. It's just very helpful now that we do have provincial government who's moved lightning pace to respond to this issue. But my sense is that this is what community wanted to see done. We wanted solutions. Community came together and helped build this solution. So now if we want to see this move ahead, we will have to sort of continue to sort of look at what does that look like when holding someone's feet to the fire. I think the very act of the work that we've done in bringing this together was a leap of faith, and we're really just sort of laying that at the feet of Mayor and Council.
Well, who gave you the update yesterday?
It wasn't an update, it was a meeting to discuss the application, and then we looked at the implications of it, of even having an application in the works without prior approval.
Meeting with the city? Or?
Yeah, planning department, yeah.
I hear a rumor, oh, sorry, go ahead. I hear a rumor that they're planning to get rid of tent city. Have you heard that?
No idea,
But what happened if they turn around and remove all those tents?
I'm not sure.
Are you going to be there for support?
Will I, personally?
I'll buy you a coffee again. Peppermint tea.
At times, like, everybody has a role to play. You know, like, I don't know that that's always the best role for me. Like, I know that a community loves to rally around a crisis and you get down there and you get your hands dirty. I could go down there. I don't know what good it makes. I think we need community to actually make sure this doesn't happen, that we have positive alternatives. And I think it's just about, like, we've had a really difficult, not just a difficult week, it's been a busy couple weeks, everyone. And so making decisions about where to use our time and how has been really challenging, Charles. And so I think about that, I could, but I don't know if it's the best use.
So as a resident of Fredericton, in order to try and implement this, would you recommend that we email, call our city council members or mayor to express our support and our frustration with how things have turned out?
for sure. I think sometimes decision makers need permission to do the right thing, and this is our opportunity to give them permission to do the right thing, even though it might seem like the wrong approach. Collectively, we're making some hard decisions to get things done. Yeah, I would.
Where's the mayor right now? Is he coming to this press conference?
I haven't heard from the mayor since this morning. I'm not sure. I don't think so, but they're aware of the question and answer period. So,
Is there any, like, a way around this or a loophole that we can?
I would defer. Do you mind, Jason? Can I?
Yeah, so I'll just be citizen Jason. I've been involved in this for a while, and through, I think there's a clear way forward for the city. Is there's an emergency act in Canada which allow municipal councils to declare a local state of emergency. I think this clearly qualifies as a local state of emergency through the actions of the community, through the subsequent actions of the province. In the City of Fredericton's own emergency measures plan, on page 30, under sections B and C, under the subcategory of powers, I'd encourage everyone to read that. To me, there's a clear pathway for mayor and council to declare a local state of emergency and request from the Anglican diocese that they have access to that property. They also have the power to call in the appropriate professional services to manage the crisis. Could be done in 2-week renewable periods. I'd encourage everyone to look at the City of Fredericton site and find the emergency measures plan. That could all happen.
Thank you, Jason.
I'm very sorry. I apologize. This is not a one-on-one. I can't shut up. But just one more question. Last night I was at the proposed shelter. Where is it? Brunswick, the corner of Brunswick and what's the other? Church. And I didn't post a video. I told someone here. I was outside with my video camera, and I'll post it in about an hour on my blog. The mayor was there at a meeting. I had them on video, and you were there also. What was the mayor, I don't want to sound like a peeking Tom, but what was the mayor doing there last night, and what was he talking about?
There was a meeting of a lot of the stakeholders, all of whom are in the room right now, and it was about trying to chart a path forward.
On what?
On making a 20-person temporary emergency shelter open at Bishop's Court today.
What did he say? I'm sorry. I'll take you after. Okay, I'm sorry.
I guess in terms of final comments for me, it's neat. Like, I don't know. It's hard. Like when you have a crisis like this and it gets everybody together, it's good and it's bad. When people love to galvanize around a crisis, I just really want to remind us again as a community that the ultimate solution, this isn't. When we're looking at short-term, stopgap, band-aid solutions, this hasn't changed anything. It's sad we're in this place, and it's sad upon sad that we're in this place. I just really want that community, if we're looking at this problem constructively with passion and commitment, is to stick with it. Homelessness is solvable, and it's ridiculous in 2018 that we're standing here, some 30-some years after we created all sorts of social infrastructure to help deal with an emergency response, that we're still dealing with it like an emergency. This isn't an emergency. This is community taking care of each other. This is community doing the right thing. And this is community enacting evidence-based approaches that help support people who are vulnerable. So I would ask people to continue to support this emerging crisis or this immediate crisis, but to not ever lose sight of the longer-term goal that solutions exist. They're effective and they're less expensive than the status quo. Thank you.
What was the meeting about last night?
Look, the meeting was about just everything that was just said, Charles. There was no secret sauce. Look, the mayor really wants to see this happen.
So he was there last night at the meeting.
Yeah.
Who was at the meeting? Who was? I didn't go through the one just from the sidewalk.
Look, there was myself.
You don't have to answer that there.
No. Look, I'll tell you who was there. Was no covert meeting. We were trying to figure out how we mitigate what was. How we want the shelter open for the vulnerable people in our community. Sandy McKinnon was there, Jeff Richardson.
From different organizations?
Yeah, Mayor O'Brien and myself and Faith.
And how long the meeting lasted?
Oh, we were probably there for an hour. Yeah, we were just trying to figure out a way forward, right?
So what was the bottom line?
You should ask Mayor O'Brien what he's been doing today.
I don't want to talk to him. Please. I'm so happy that he wasn't here.
Look, what was expressed was what I just expressed in that meeting. I think there's a clear pathway forward. I think the municipal politicians need to determine whether they have the will to declare a local state of emergency. That's, I think, the clear path.
They don't even want O'Brien put a stop to a bus shelter and the welfare office and the food bank. They don't even build. And I know I'm changing the issue here.
Yeah, well,
sorry,
and you
but
know, Charles, I can't comment on stuff I don't know about.
Don't you
right?
love these bloggers except CBC? There's no editing. There's no editing here.
You know,
this is pure raw, very
everybody
raw.
Loves you, Charles.
Very raw. Yeah,
but
really.
I don't know about those issues at all.
No, but they should have a bus shelter to show, at the food bank and the welfare office. But they said no. So how can they? That's just. I know I'm jumping in. But.
You know what, Charles? I think that this is a great example of how community can lead a file and demand better from people. It's really hopeful that this new government showed up in 4 business days. That meeting with the government was held last Friday. I attended that meeting. In 4 business days, our new government turned this around to benefit the most vulnerable people in the community. I'm flabbergasted. Have you ever heard of such a thing in your life?
I chased Dorothy Shepherd. I didn't know anything about this. I chased her an hour, 2 hours ago. She had a cell phone. Maybe she was busy talking to this.
Well, and you know what, Charles? They're very, very busy people. They've got more than you and I to take care of. They've got a whole province of people to take care of.
And St. John is worse than Fredericton.
St. John and Moncton are in tough shape. So it's, we've got to give people like Dorothy Shepherd and Premier Higgs and everybody, David Kuhn, Chris Austin, Brian Gallant, we've got to give them all an opportunity to change the outcomes for vulnerable people.
Do you think next time they'll make sure there's no goddamn pain in the ass bloggers around news conferences? And I'm wondering how come it's look.
They'll never, not unless we send you down to visit Pearly soon. That's always going to happen, right?
The media scrum right there. Okay. I asked my questions already. Why ask again?
I'm sure you get the good stuff.
He's the Zoom that could be one possible path forward. But in terms of us developing those solutions now, I think that it really will be for them to have a discussion about how they want to proceed and what they think their solutions are, if they have any.
So at this point, of course, no. That must have been
very disappointing. It's disappointing on a lot of levels. It's been an incredible amount of work by everybody, even people inside of our city, and our community partners to pull this off. It was only a week ago yesterday that we started talking about this, and it may seem like a simple thing to pop up some thoughts, but there's a lot to it. And that this has happened, it's happened later than it should have ever. We've been through 2 weeks of extremely cold weather. We could have lost lives. Like this has gone on too long. So this is beyond disappointing, especially when we have such support coming provincially from our community, from our partners.
Do you worry about lives being lost because the shelter won't be open?
Well, I think that's what this is really about, is that and out of the cold shelter is an exceptional measure because people are at risk of injury or potentially death because of cold. It's Canada. And now we have a disproportionately higher amount of people who are on the streets. And sadly, we're trying to start an emergency shelter. We should have longer term, more sustainable solutions, but this is where we're at. I would rather this discussion to be about things like housing first and rapid housing, about evidence-based supports, wraparound supports, but right now we're talking about something like an emergency stopgap measure.
So you had mentioned as well, if I could get to elaborate on, you mentioned exceptional measures, but exceptional measures in dealing with this as well. So something you're looking forward to look at this differently than other applications. It is. Yes. So can you explain that a little bit?
Again, we wouldn't have a community proceeded without an assurance that this would be handled. My wheelhouse is really around bringing community together in terms of this community problem solving that we've done and try to kind of push that process forward. I really think that that becomes the role of the municipality, because that's for the barriers. So in terms of what those exceptional circumstances look like, it's not my area, and I really would have them come forward with those solutions.
And just so I'm clear too, the bylaw, that would need to be to make it a shelter, right? A bylaw to keep it in accordance to be a shelter.
Or find some way in which they feel comfortable superseding the bylaw temporarily in light of this current situation. Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to add?
Like again, I would be repeating myself, but again, I just really want to state that this is a solvable issue, and that we continue to approach homelessness in a stopgap, short-term emergency sort of response. It's impressive, and it's heartwarming and incredible that people are coming together to be standing behind this issue as such. But I really think that we should galvanize right now and not lose sight of the bigger picture, is that homelessness is one of those issues that is actually easier to fix than to ignore. We know through evidence that homelessness is something that we can change and turn the tide on. We need investments in affordable housing. We need investments in wraparound services. We know the cost of leaving somebody just struggle on the streets is a minimum of $55,000 a year in emergency services, whereas providing somebody with access to housing and support services, not temporary housing, real housing, is $21,000 to $34,000 a year. I think our path forward is clear. I just think that people shouldn't lose sight of that in terms of the bigger picture as we try to address this short-term crisis.
And just one last time, can I get your name and title?
My name is Faith McFarland, and my new job is coordinator of community development coordinator at the Community Action Group. Flower washer.
Peppermint tea tonight. What time? 7:30.
Do you have a cell phone?
No, I don't. I got a
I don't
phone.
use Facebook or anything.
I don't blame you.
I'm gonna try.
I got the camera on there. You know that. So it's all right. 7:30.
Quit picking your nose. What are you doing? Oh my gosh! Hey, no.
There you go.
Hey.
Okay, we're picking it.
I don't know. Like I've had a real hell of a time. I know.
I gotta shut this thing. I gotta shut this thing about.